Nobody did that before. And it's big stuff, too. Look, we have the hottest country in the world.
The hottest country in the world on nearly every issue, from the economy to immigration to foreign wars. President Trump declaring victory today. But at the same time that he was speaking, the markets were sliding amid fears that his threats to Greenland could ignite a trade war with Europe. In Minnesota, the Department of Justice was delivering subpoenas to at least 5 state and local officials over their response to federal immigration operations there.
I can show you some of the people, vicious, many of them murderers. These are all out of Minnesota, just Minnesota. Why wouldn't you want them removed? The reason is because these are insurrectionists that are doing this work. And, you know, they're going to make mistakes sometimes. ICE is going to be too rough with somebody, or, you know, they're dealing with rough people.
All right, let's get off the sidelines, head into the arena. My panel's here, along with CNN senior White House correspondent Kristen Holmes. Kristen, you were in the press briefing room for that marathon of an event. It kept going, it kept winding, it kept weaving. I think the president often calls the way that he sometimes will deliver public remarks. What our viewers saw there was just a little taste of what we got today. It seemed there was a new surprise at every turn. Walk us through both what we heard from the president and also your sort of takeaways about what it felt like to be in the room on this one-year anniversary.
Well, Casey, it felt like he was airing his grievances, that he was frustrated and annoyed with his own team. At one point, he said that he didn't think that maybe he had a good public relations team around him. He said the reason that he had come out there at the one-year mark to talk was not because he wanted to, but because he essentially didn't feel like his accomplishments were being touted appropriately by the messengers that he had in place. So he wanted to do it himself. And as you showed there, he kind of ticking through those mug shots. It was clearly him trying to showcase what the administration has done that he again believes that his people aren't talking enough about. So holding up those mugshots, talking about ICE in particular, saying all of the things that ICE has done and touting them as very successful, saying that he supports them. At one point, this veered into a conversation about the Nobel Peace Prize, unsurprisingly, since it's something that he's been fixated on. He basically blamed Norway, the government, even though it is an independent commission that does the Nobel Peace Prize, but he said that Norway was behind it. And it was very clear that he felt snubbed, that he went through a long list of reasons why he should have received the Nobel Peace Prize and why he seemingly was angry at the Norwegian government for the reason that he didn't get it. Now, of course, one of the biggest topics of conversation right now as President Trump heads to Davos, where there are a slew of European leaders, while this conversation around Greenland is looming over everyone, is where President Trump stands with NATO. This idea that he's been essentially threatening to put troops into Greenland, which is a territory that is controlled by Denmark, which is a NATO ally. Here's what he said.
I've done more for NATO than anybody, and I see all this stuff, but NATO has to treat us fairly, too. The big fear I have with NATO is we spend tremendous amounts of money with NATO, and I know we'll come to their rescue, but I just really do question whether or not they'll come to ours. You know, I'm just asking. Just saying, right? You remember during the debate? Just saying.
Just saying, something we all used to say all the time, a remnant of times past, Casey. But going on, you know, when we were hearing from the president, it seemed as though he was almost kind of angry that people were not giving him enough credit on every front when it came to the world stage. He talked a lot about the military actions, Venezuela, the strikes in Iran. He talked a lot about the economy. He specifically talked about gas prices, asking the room at one point, doesn't everybody just agree that gas prices are lower? So this was a pretty unprecedented even for the president of the United States, but it was clear that I'm fairly certain he didn't come out there with any prepared remarks. He was holding up the same packet that he had given all of us. All of the reporters had gotten a packet that said something along the lines of 365 days and 365 accomplishments. I'm paraphrasing there. And he just seemed to at times kind of look down, read one of the bullet points and then elaborate on it. Again, it didn't seem as though this is from any kind of script, but just things that were on his mind. Again, a lot of it was grievances that he felt like he wasn't getting credit for some of the things that were in that packet.
All right. Kristen Holmes, thank you very much for that report. Best of luck the rest of the day of your day at the White House. My panel is here in the arena. CNN political analyst, investigative reporter at the New York Times, David Fahrenthold, CNN special correspondent Jamie Gangel, former communications director for the DNC, Mo Alithi, and the former chief of staff to Vice President Mike Pence, Mark Short. We're also joined by CNN political and national security analyst David Sanger. I want to dig in with David on Greenland in just a moment, but Jamie Gangel, I kind of want to start with the big picture of what today was like. You know, I was flashing back to the press conference he gave. It was probably the first couple months of his first term. I was covering Capitol Hill, and we all sort of stopped to watch what happened. And then I tried to talk to Republicans in the hallway and say, hey, did you see that news conference that we all can't stop talking about? And they just walked right by me and said, nope, never seen it. You fast forward to now, the president is using some of the same tactics that he's always used for all this time in public life.